Two of the top things that cause dysfunction and autoimmune disease is one, toxins, and two, deficiencies. And a lot of time, if we are able to focus in on those two things, we can correct a lot. I mean, of course, there's other things, stress and sleep and other things. But a lot of times our toxic load and our deficiencies, a lot of time, if we can address those, we can heal our body.
Welcome back to another episode of the Charyse Williams Show. I am so excited that we have the amazing Sabrina Peoples. And you guys, today we're going to be talking all about getting insights from a functional medicine nurse coach. So let me tell you a little bit about Sabrina Peoples. So Sabrina is a nurse practitioner turned functional medicine nurse coach and blood work specialist. She guides women over 40 to lose weight and increase energy naturally to reclaim their body and the life that they desire. So please help me welcome Sabrina Peoples. Hey, Sabrina.
Hey, thanks, Charyse, for having me. I appreciate it.
You are so very welcome. So I know they are dying to know, okay, so how did she transition from, nursing, or from nurse to nurse practitioner to now functional medicine nurse coach? So you wanted to kind of take us on that journey?
Sure. Well, I've been in the medical field for over 20 plus years. I started my initial career in the Air Force, believe it or not, as an EMT medic. And then did 4 years active duty Air Force, and got out and went back to school to pursue nursing. So I did nursing for about 7 or 8 years, and became a nurse practitioner after that. So I worked in, the Western medicine rim. After I got out of the Air Force, went back to school to become a nurse, and then worked in nursing for some years, and then decided to go back to school to become a nurse practitioner. From there, I've worked in urgent care, acute care. I've worked in pulmonary medicine, and then more recently, health and wellness and aesthetics. So I've always been into health, always been into, wellness and aesthetics. And so it's just a natural kind of progression for me to get into more of the health and wellness and holistic realm. And that's kind of what I've been focusing on for the last 5 years. I was able to work under several holistic doctors, and so able to gain some experience there, and then kind of decided to go back and get advanced education in functional medicine, functional lab, and holistic health. So right now, I predominantly help women in that perimenopause stage of life, where they may be experiencing fatigue, gut issues, and particularly stubborn weight loss resistance. And so that's kind of, where I focus most of my time in my coaching efforts.
Yeah, I love that. And so what was it that even made you prompted you to want to even start your own coaching business? Well, actually, let's even go back one step further. Why functional medicine? What was it what was going on either in your career as it relates to Western medicine that made you say, you know what, I think I'm going to take a slightly different approach?
Right. So after practicing as a nurse practitioner, I got the opportunity to read a lot of labs, hundreds of labs, and work with clients. And I always felt I was always just kind of handing out a prescription. I felt like I always wanted more time to educate them on, more of a holistic way of looking at their nutrition, looking at their lifestyle, managing their stress. And I always just felt like I was just kind of your typical Western style, handing out a diagnosis and then here's your prescription. Yeah. And it just never sat well with me authentically. And I knew I wanted to do more. I knew I could help more, and I wanted to help more than that. And I always just thought about how I was raised. I grew up, and nutrition and lifestyle and food was never something that was taught to me early on. It was something that I acquired as, I got into my profession, and also during the military, I became very disciplined about my health, and a lot of my family members suffer from chronic conditions that a lot of times, if we could address things sooner, earlier, could prevent them from being on prescription medications. And so that's one of my, prime reasons why I enjoy reading blood work and helping my clients, because we can really get to the root cause of things and prevent them from advancing in further disease, hopefully prevent them from getting on medications, or maybe cut back on some of the medications that they're already taking.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And so you specifically now focus your efforts towards women over 40, I think you said perimenopausal, who are experiencing that fatigue, that stubborn weight gain or resistance, weight loss resistance. So how did you land on that? I'd love to know that. And then what do you find are maybe some myths that people have that are maybe even preventing them from really regaining or reclaiming their energy and even losing that weight?
I think I landed with women because I just feel like women, particularly women of color, we sometimes, we go to the doctor, and what I found is you have symptoms and you maybe go and see your primary care provider. They do lab work, but the labs don't always represent how you feel. And
Right.
what people don't realize is that just because your labs are normal, within that normal range, doesn't mean you're free from dysfunction.
Correct.
Doesn't mean that, you're healthy, because that wide range, it takes in consideration healthy individuals and unhealthy. So it's a broad range. And so it doesn't always tell you the full story. And so that's one myth. And then I feel like, me as a woman, I feel like women are a lot of times we're just kind of disregarded, overlooked by our symptoms and kind of told, get more rest, or maybe it's in your head, or here's your
Right.
depressant.
Right.
And, I always tell people, if you have a gut feeling, that's why it's called gut. If you have a
Right.
gut feeling that something is off, you don't feel your best, always, advocate for yourself and listen to that, because labs is just one part of the story. I mean, your body. And even if your provider says, well, everything looks good, let's see you in a year, if you know deep down if something is off. And unfortunately, a lot of people just, they take that and as reassurance that everything is fine. And a lot of times within the next 6 months to a year, something inevitably comes up. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And so I'm hearing you, say something really, really powerful. For one, always advocate for yourself. And then two, trust yourself. If you know that something is not right, I don't care 10 doctors,
Right.
the best doctors in the world, say that you're fine. Trust that you know your body better than anybody else knows your body and will ever know your body. And so going back to that, advocate for yourself. So I love that. If you had to give some advice to a nurse right now, or nurse practitioner right now that's listening, and they're like, oh my God, that sounds amazing. That sounds like I want to do something like that as well. What are some insights that you would share to someone who is either considering transitioning into the holistic health space, the functional medicine space, or maybe they already have, but their business hasn't taken off yet the way they desire? So what would be some insights or some tips that you would share with them?
I would say one, definitely invest in a mentor, someone that's in the same space that you want to be, whether it's, online mentoring or coaching, or working with someone. Like I said, I actually worked with a holistic naturopathic doctor for a couple years prior to me even making this transition, where I was able to learn a lot. And so if you're kind of still not quite ready yet to make that transition and you want to get some more training, I would say, try to find a job, even if it's part-time, in that area you want to work in, to get that experience. But ultimately, I think having a mentor, having someone that's doing what you're doing, because there's a lot of coaches out here. I feel that coach and they've not actually done what they are coaching on. They have this methodology and framework, but they've never actually been successful at doing it themselves. So really vet out your coaches and make sure that they've actually had success at what they're teaching, and not just attended some course themselves and teaching it. So
yeah, no, I was going to just jump in and say that is so important. So two things. One, mentorship. A lot of times we are, depending on our personality type, we kind of want to do everything ourselves. And here's the thing, we all went to school for nursing, or for nurse practitioner. Very few of us have gone to school for business, right? And so we're not expected to know how to run a business. So there's no shame in seeking out support. But you do want to use discernment, is what I'm hearing you say, and you do want to vet, who it is that you're working with. One, making sure that they're in the space that you're wanting to be in, right? And then two, that they've been successful in that space. Right. That's important, because you can't teach what you don't know. You can't teach what you don't know. So yeah. And so how has mentorship helped you in your business, with your business success?
It's definitely helped me both from the clinical aspect and from the business aspect. Like you said, most of us nurse practitioners, we don't have that business experience. So definitely, gaining that experience and that wisdom from others. And then another thing that I would say is important is trying to find your own authentic way of how you want to do things, because ultimately, even when you work with a coach, I feel like, some things you may take and run with, some things may not feel authentic to you. So I feel like, it's still good to keep your, who you are, because ultimately when you do start seeing clients, they will, resonate with you. You'll attract that person that you, that is attracted to you. So I feel like it's still important to be authentic to yourself, but have someone to at least guide you, and you're able to use their wisdom as you're, starting your own business and building a community too. For the longest, like I'm introverted. I don't really particularly like to be in front of the camera, but it's really important for you to build some kind of community, I feel, so you can start to work on that know, like, and trust factor, because I just feel like people, they don't, they buy from people that they know, like, or trust. And so until you're able to build that and that takes time. It's usually not done overnight. So just know that it is a work in progress, and
it's a process for sure.
It's a process. Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
And exposure, getting as much exposure as possible.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's one thing that, I talk about all the time, is really allowing yourself to be seen more. And I know a lot of, whether you're introverted or extroverted, sometimes, we struggle with that just for tons of different reasons that we won't even go into today. But when you're looking to make a massive impact, and even if you're wanting to make, even if you don't want to make a massive impact, people, the number one thing that everyone comes in contact with, or everyone has an issue with when they're starting their business, or challenged with, that's what I was looking for. The number one thing that people are challenged with when they're starting businesses is exposure. It's no one knows who they are, right? No, so you absolutely have to be willing to put yourself out there in a way that does feel comfortable. Well, here's the thing: you may not feel comfortable. Again, whether you're introverted or extroverted, it may not feel comfortable, because anytime we're doing something new and different, rarely does it feel comfortable until it becomes comfortable, right? Like anything else. I don't know if you remember, when you were a brand new nurse, I right out of nursing school, I went into surgical ICU. I was not comfortable. Number one, I was a brand new nurse. Number two, it was critical care. I was scared every day until I wasn't. Right? And so it's the same thing here. But one thing that you said, Sabrina, that I really want to just kind of underscore, because it's so important, is authenticity. There are tons of ways to do. There's so many different ways to market yourself. There's so many ways to sell your services. There's so many ways to do pretty much everything, right? Now,
Mhm.
when you are starting to implement anywhere, learn anyway, it's going to feel uncomfortable again because it's new. But at the core, you do want to make sure that you remain authentic to who you are. And that's going to, and even in that authenticity, that in and of itself is going to evolve because we're human
Right.
and we're always evolving.
Yeah.
So, so yeah,
Yeah.
authenticity, authenticity, authenticity. Yeah. Did you want to say something else about that?
I was just going to say, yes, allow yourself, not, no, it's not going to be perfect. I know a lot of people suffer from, just perfection. And so it kind of prevents them from taking action and moving forward. I've even, had issues with that, but just know that likely whatever you start with, you'll probably make a pivot at some point. I've pivoted several times.
Yeah.
And that's okay because it just, makes you more, like I said, reliable, relatable.
Yeah.
And until you find exactly, what works well for you, you may have to make that pivot once or twice. So just know that, it's okay not to be perfect. And believe it or not, people do give you grace. I mean, that was
Yeah.
always my fear is like, they have their popcorn waiting for me to, make a mistake and watching me like, sorry. But people do actually have a lot of grace. And so, so what if you do, make some mistakes along the way, you learn from them. And the quicker I feel like you can make those mistakes, the quicker you can, move forward
So true.
and yeah. Mm-hmm.
No, so true. I always say make as many mistakes as you possibly can, as quickly as you can, because that's just going to help accelerate your learning curve
Yeah.
so much quicker. And I get it because as nurses and nurse practitioners, most of us are we do have that perfectionists, right? And
Yeah.
it makes sense because and we're very analytical, and it makes sense because when we, let's take it back to even a hospital setting, it could be the difference between life and death if you're not very analytical, right? But
Right.
in business, as you're building your business, no one's going to die if you get the marketing wrong. No one's going to die if you say something wrong on camera. Well, maybe not really die, but it's not as dire. It's not as dire. You're not like at the bedside about to push a drug or something. And
Right.
so give yourself grace, and you're right, people will give you grace as well. And we're always our worst critics. We are always our own worst critics. Things that we might see or we might pick up, no one's looking for that. Really, when people see you online or however they come in contact with you, they can feel that authenticity. They can feel if you're real or not. That's why authenticity is so important. That's why I want to underscore that. But then also what's coming out of your mouth. Like if what's coming out of your mouth, if you're dropping jewels, if you're educating them, if you are giving them something that they have not been
Mm-hmm.
able to get elsewhere, they're in. They're in, and they don't care that you stumbled over a word or said something backwards or whatever it is that you think that you may have done not perfectly. They really could care less. They want to get better. At the end
Yeah.
of the day, they want to get better. So yeah, and so you talked about pivoting. And you said you've had to make some pivots. Can you share, maybe a couple of times that or a couple of areas in your business where you've had to pivot or where you've chosen to pivot, whether that was with who you wanted to work with, whether it was in your business model, just across the board, whatever comes to mind.
Right. I think probably one of the biggest pivots is that initially, I still do have a brick and mortar business. And so I was in the office pretty much, 4 or 5 days a week and have been able to grow it to be pretty successful. But I quickly realized that I did not want to grow it and expand it to this big, massive, clinic where there's, I have tons of other people working for me and managing other people. I thought I wanted that, but that's not really what I wanted to do. And I also realized that you will quickly burn out. You'll hit kind of a ceiling where, you're doing well, but you almost have to add on more people, add on more help. And if you don't, you kind of stay at that ceiling. So I had to make a pivot because I felt like I was trading a lot of time for money. And I was limited on, the number of people I could see and also financially, my growth, I was limited. So I made the pivot to, and I'm still actually in the process. I still do have my brick and mortar part-time, very part-time, but I'm also working on my online coaching. And that's going to give me more freedom, the freedom that I'm looking for as far as, freedom of my time, freedom of my location, and financial freedom too, because I'm able to see more people and help more people too. So that was probably the biggest pivot, is saying, okay, this brick and mortar is not the life for me. And I know people who do extremely well. They start out small and they bring on other practitioners, they bring on other nurses, and they grow this, massive med spa and with all the services and everything. But that's just not what I wanted to do.
Right. And I think it's so important to really stay connected, or it's easy to disconnect when you're just kind of in the hustle and bustle of things and you're just running your business and building your business, and particularly the more successful it becomes. But I think it's so important to check back in with yourself to say, okay, is this still what I want? Because like I mentioned earlier, we're always evolving, not just our business is evolving, but we're always evolving as individuals. And in our evolving, it affects other things in our, it affects our business. It affects many things in our life, but it would definitely affect our business. And so I'm sharing all that to say, if you're listening to this and you're like, well, I think I want a brick and mortar, or I think I want to go do this, or I think I want this, wherever you are right now is where you are right now. And and so fulfill that desire, and just know that at some point things might change, and that's okay too, because again, you're changing not only as an individual, but you're also changing as a business owner. But you'll know when I know when I started my holistic health coaching business, at first I wanted to just help everybody, which that was a bad strategy, but I didn't know any better at the time. And then I hired a coach and mentor, and then I was like, oh, I should, pick a niche. Yeah. And then from there, but still, I even changed my niche twice. And so I ultimately landed on, high achieving women who are challenged with high blood pressure and or type 2 diabetes. And so that's my space. I love that, but it didn't start off like that. So for those of you who are listening, who are like, well, I feel like I want to do this, but I want to do this, just pick one, go with it. And then if you decide to shift later, it's all good. The likelihood of you shifting is highly probable. It's highly probable. So
that was another thing that I had to realize, because, when you have a brick and mortar, you do several services. And so transitioning on to coaching, it's best to really niche down and to do well. So that was definitely a pivot as well. And a difficult, I changed it several times. So
but here's the thing. But here's the thing. And you probably, again, if you're listening, as you're listening to this, it is okay that you change, and I always say, try it on, just kind of like a dress, try it on, wear it. If it doesn't feel right, or if there's something off, shift, because the beauty of building your own business is that it is your own, and it should bring you joy. If you're doing something, if you're building a business and you're not excited and it's not bringing you joy, you're doing something wrong. You better shift real quick, because you're going to burn out and you're going to tap out. Right. And at the end of the day, you have so much to give. And at the end of the day, there's so many people who need specifically what you can offer. And I say this all the time, no one can do what you can do the way you can do it. And so keep shifting until it feels, until you've hit your sweet spot. Even if I don't care if that's on your third or fourth or fifth shift, until you hit your sweet spot. You'll know when you hit your sweet spot, because it won't even feel like work, really. You're just kind of soaring. And so I love the way you're helping women, Sabrina. I love that you had the insight to get mentorship. You were actually, I didn't mention this, but you were actually a student inside the Prosperous Practitioner program. And so I know there are people who are listening who are like, kind of considering that. I would love to hear maybe what was your favorite part? If you had to just name one thing that was the best part for you of the Prosperous Practitioner program, what would that be?
I would say probably the case studies, because I'm a very analytical person. I like, the labs. I love reading labs. Is almost like a puzzle, and you have, all these pieces that you're trying to connect to figure out, why this person feels the way they feel, or, And so having the case studies really brings the, the clinical aspect to life, and so I really, that was probably my favorite part is being able to go over real life case studies. And I was able to use a lot of my own clients. And so that really helped me as a clinician, being able to do that. Because a lot of times, you may take programs and, they give you tons of clinical information, great information, but then you having to apply that in real life situations. So that was probably one of my favorite part, because I'm more of that. Let's put it all together,
Yeah, it is. It is like a puzzle. You're putting it all together. And then you have, of course, the help of Dr. Orlandis, and so, yeah. I love that. I love that part too. I mean, there's so many parts of that I love about it, of course, because it's my program. But I've got to say our Thursday nights are pretty awesome, because the learning is so rich. I mean, really, because you're putting it all together. So, yeah. All right. So as we are wrapping up, any last bits of insight you would like to share with, let's say she is Sabrina a year ago.
Oh, so, wow. To my old self a year ago?
Yeah.
Yes. Give yourself grace. Know that, you'll make mistakes, but you'll also learn a lot, and you'll grow. And, just keep faith, keep pushing every day. And, as long as you are doing what is passionate and that's helping people, then everything else will align, all together. So I think I would say that, and give yourself grace. That's a big one.
That's a huge one.
Yeah.
I would agree. That is a huge one. Give yourself grace. Yeah. I love that. And so, one thing I like to do as we're wrapping up is I like to do this little thing called rapid fire, just really just questions that I'm going to ask you that just kind of give us an insight into who Sabrina is. So you ready? You up for it?
Yeah.
Okay. You sound so scared. All right. So who was... It's not bad. It's not bad. All right. So who was your childhood celebrity crush? Who's your childhood celebrity crush, if you can remember?
Probably Will Smith was my childhood celebrity crush. Yeah. Will Smith.
Oh, that's so cool. Okay. I love that. All righty. If you could trade places with one person for a day, who would that one person be?
Ooh, for one day. Oh, wow. There's a couple people, but I would say, it has to be a woman that's like a boss, and the first one that just pops up in my head would be Oprah Winfrey, because she's had so many businesses. I feel like she would be able to give me, and I'm sure early on she's had, some losses and made mistakes along the way, but ultimately she's like, a boss. So I feel like she could give me so much information as far as business and mindset and wisdom. And, she definitely pops up as someone, if I could spend a day with, definitely Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah. I'm with you on that one. Same here. What would you say is the best compliment you've ever gotten?
The best compliment. I guess when my clients tell me, I've really helped them, and just how I've helped them, feel better about themselves, improve their health. It just lets me know that, I'm doing what my purpose is in life, because for a long time before I got into this field, I kind of, flopped around different, areas of medicine before I found an area that I felt like, oh, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is, what my God-given purpose is. So when I have clients that I'm able to really help them with their health or, lose weight or whatever it is, and they're very appreciative, I think that's the best compliment, like my service back to them. So yeah, that's probably what I
Hmm.
would say. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And you know what? This question just popped up for me to ask because you talked about purpose. This is not on my list of questions, but you talked about purpose, and I'm just curious, how much does your faith come into your business? Are you building your business?
I feel like you can't have one without the other, honestly. I feel like, as a healthcare professional, like what I'm doing is my purpose, is serving God and his people, So I feel like they are kind of one in the same. And so yeah, I just feel like you can't have one without the other one. So it's very important to me to make sure that I feel like I'm living out what my purpose is, because like I said,
Yeah.
years before earlier, I didn't always feel that way. And so I feel like when you're going through life and
Hmm.
you haven't discovered your purpose, I feel like you're just kind of just going through the motions. But when you truly feel like you're, and even if you haven't,
Yeah.
reached the highest yet, when you're at least walking in it, you feel more confident and more comfortable that, that you're on the right path. And so, yeah, I think definitely spirituality and your purpose can kind of go hand in hand. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
All right. So yeah, and I think it's I get this question a lot, that should I incorporate should I be a faith-based entrepreneur, right? And some people have, there's different schools of thoughts out there. You should, not bring your faith into business. But I'm with you. I am so much with you, because if that is a integral part of who you are and how you live your life, then it would be inauthentic to not bring that into your business, as in some way, shape, or form. And we always talk about your that no like and trust factor. There are going to be some people, no matter what, there's always going to be people who are attracted to you and some people who are going to be repelled, and that's absolutely fine. And that actually is a great indicator of how well your marketing is working. But I will also say, if you are one thing that I know, that if you are leading as like a faith-based entrepreneur, one thing I can truly say is that really magnetizes people, your people, to you, and you can be even more of yourself and even more authentic, because that's what they're looking for. I can't tell you, like, one of my really great, really, 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 really good friends, she actually saved my life, literally. She is a doctor, and I have never met a doctor who prayed with you. Like, I pray with my holistic health clients, but I've never met a doctor that will pray with you, like as you're in the exam room or whatever. And so, anyway, I just want to bring that up, because if there's someone listening that has maybe had that concern, like, should I bring my faith into it? So should I post things about that? If that's an integral part of who you are and how you run your life and your business, then I would say absolutely. If not, then no. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
definitely. I
okay, a
agree.
couple more questions. If you, yeah, yeah, if you were stuck on a deserted island, what is one thing that you would want? Like, you could only have one thing on the island.
Hmm. I would probably say I wouldn't want to be on the island by myself. So I would have to have my best friend, which is my husband. So I would bring him.
Okay, there you go.
I would want to be on a deserted
I love
island by
that.
myself.
Same here. Like, literally, same.
I know
That
you
sounds
said I
horrible,
would be.
doesn't it?
I know you said you had to be by yourself, but I'm like, if I had to bring one thing, it would be my husband, because I don't want to be by myself. Yeah.
I'm with you 1,000% on that. So cool. What's the biggest risk you've ever taken?
The biggest risk. It would probably be starting a business. Because
Yeah.
I mean, you can talk yourself into a million reasons why, not to start one. You can make more money. You can, you could just talk yourself into a million and one more reasons why you shouldn't. But I mean, starting a business, being an entrepreneur is not for the weak. And, one thing that I've realized is that, a lot of people just don't understand that lifestyle. Friends, family, they just don't understand it. So, if you do decide, one of my, I guess, nuggets or advice I would give is, if you do decide to venture into this, world of entrepreneurship, get you a community of other entrepreneurs, because you will need someone to talk to vent to run ideas off of. And, we are few and we are very few community, especially women, Black women as well. So that's probably the biggest risk, because
Black women in healthcare.
Yes. So I would say just starting a business, especially because when I first started, I still worked for a doctor, and I was doing my business as like part-time until I built it up. So when I finally went 100% in my business, that was a huge risk as well. But I can say, my business didn't see the success until I did go 100% in, as far as I didn't see the success when I was still working somewhere else. And so until I went in 100% to focus in on that. So keep that in mind. I know for a lot of people, you have to start where you can start. And, that might be just doing it part-time, but just know that a lot of times your business will never be reach the potential until you just take a leap of faith and go out on it full time. And thank God I had a husband support system, because I don't know if I would have been able to do it if I didn't have a support system. But definitely just starting my own business was probably one of the biggest risks that I've taken.
Yeah. No, you said so much in that in and of itself, but I would agree. Yeah. Starting a business is risky because there's no guarantees. There's no guarantees, but I will say this, and I've been probably in the entrepreneurial world. Yeah, definitely in the entrepreneurial world longer than I've actually even been at bedside at this point. I worked like 12, 13 years at the bedside, but I've been a full-time entrepreneur for over 20 years. Really, I can say it's one of the most rewarding things, because it's you, it's your thing that you get to build, and you get to build it however you desire. And so yeah, but I do know to quit your job. And I would say, for everyone, that's definitely something totally individual, but you know when you know. And then you do start to find that when you do go all in with your business, of course, you start to make those quantum leaps that I always talk about, because now you're singly focused, right? You're not having to spread energy and effort and time across, a job and all the multiple hats that we wear. So yeah, so I love that. Okay, one last question. Tell us something that we don't know about you.
Something you don't know about me. Well, I've already said that I was in the Air Force, so I'm a veteran. I would say something that people don't know is when I was a baby, our house caught on fire and literally burnt to the ground. And I was an arm baby. My grandfather actually rescued me out of the fire, and I didn't get any kind of injuries. The only thing is I got burnt in the middle of my scalp. So I actually have a small bald spot from where fire landed in my scalp, but no other injuries. And the house literally went up in flames. Yep. So when I was a baby.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Well, praise God for that. That's wow. Well, praise God for that. Cause like I said, it could have been worse than that. So, wow. Yep. And praise God, that's the only injury that you sustained,
Yep. That's it.
So
that's the only thing.
Well, I know. Yeah. Well, this has been fun. I know that you have something that you wanted to share with our listening audience, and it's all around calming the flame. Calming the flame. So, can you tell us a little bit about what calming the flame is, and then how can they access that?
Sure. So, part of my work, as a holistic nurse coach and functional blood work expert is reading labs. And what I find is two of the top reasons, or two of the top things that cause dysfunction and autoimmune disease is one, toxins, and two, deficiencies. And a lot of time, if we are able to focus in on those two things, we can correct a lot. I mean, of course, there's other things, stress and sleep and other things. But a lot of times, our toxic load and our deficiencies, a lot of time, if we can address those, we can heal our body, heal our cellular. And so Calm the Flame is basically a guide to things you can do holistically and naturally to help calm inflammation. And that inflammation can be from a number of things. It could be from our stress, from chemicals, what we eat. We eat a lot of processed foods. Of course, inflammation from bacterial infections, viruses. So it's just things that we can do holistically to help calm that inflammation and create a way for us to start releasing weight. Because until we decrease that inflammation, our bodies won't feel safe to release weight. And we'll stay, we'll keep having fatigue and brain fog and digestion, all the things because of our toxic load, which is causing a lot of inflammation in our body. So I really focus a lot with that with my clients, and even with the protocols that I create is focus a lot on decreasing that and getting rid of underlying infections, like I said, viruses and parasites and bacterial. So the Calm the Flame is just kind of a introductory guide to some things that you can do to help with decreasing your inflammation. And it also has some recommended supplements that can help with that as well.
I love that. I love that. So how do they access that?
So I hang out mostly on Facebook and on LinkedIn. It's under my name, Sabrina Peoples, but the guide is under my LinkedIn account, and it's in the featured section. So if you just go into the featured section, there's a link where you can access the guide.
Okay, cool. I'll actually have the team put your LinkedIn link in the show notes, so that way it'll be easier for our listener to connect with you. So, oh my God, Sabrina, this has been amazing. You have shed so much light and insight as to.
Oh, I was going to say I believe there's also a link if you want to schedule a complimentary consultation with me. There's a link on my LinkedIn page as well.
Oh, that sounds phenomenal, Sabrina. I love that. What I'm going to do is I'll have the team link it down below in the show notes, so that way they can connect with you easily, and they can also access the guide that you just mentioned. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, your insights, your heart today with us. We certainly appreciate it. And you guys, we will see you next time for another episode of the Charyse Williams Show. Bye for now.